And Mera, it's Marysol. It's an absolute pleasure to have you back on the podcast. It's been a while. How you doing?
Adam, great to see you again and speak with you today. I'm doing amazing. Thank you.
No, good, good. It's great to have you back on, and I'm glad all is well. And I know like it's been a while, and I remember in our conversation we were talking about a few topics, and I think you made some good points on. And the first one was like leveling up and like accountability and why that's important in life. Really, I think everyone should kind of level up and set goals and things like that. But also with that and with that leveling up is like accountability. You have to kind of be accountable for your actions, what you're doing, what you're not doing, all of that.
Exactly. Yeah. Off camera, we were talking about kind of the theme for today. And a lot of us have goals, but we don't necessarily have a plan that is specific, that is short term, that is measurable. And oftentimes we can make a goal and think of a long term result, but we have to stay accountable to the short term goals that can make that long term result.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think like it's those, as you mentioned, those short term goals are important, and we're not just instead of just looking at like the finish line, we have to look at kind of those short term goals that are in front of us and deal with that and manage that before we can then build onto the next thing, if that makes sense. Like if you build a house, you have to do the first building blocks in front of you, then the next and the next and the next, and they all kind of build together, don't they? Really, over time.
They do. And what I find helpful is taking a moment in your day and be extremely selfish about it. Say it 15 minutes, 30 minutes, where it's just you and a notepad, and you write down, okay, A, B, and C steps needed so that this week is a success, or this next day is a hit, or so I can be proud of myself by the end of the month. So there's certain criteria that is different for everyone that makes an A plus type of life, whether it's working out every day, that elevates your lifestyle. Shoot, that elevated mine. I was on a streak, and I still am. On January 10th, I committed to working out at least daily. Now, for some people, they actually work out twice a day. One could be an indoor workout, one can be an outdoor workout, but it's setting that intention first and thinking, okay, if I want to look like this person, or if I just have the goal of having abs or looking lean or having a toner muscle. So that's the goal, right? And then you reverse engineer, okay, what am I going to do to get there? Am I going to lift the weights? Am I going to work on lower body, upper body? And really, working out for me is such a great example because people go around wearing these designer bags, right? Like Louis Vuitton, European bags, because things that are foreign seem to be attractive, right? Like your accent for people in the United States is attractive. Why? Because we don't hear that every day. But say you and your girlfriend talking, if you're from the same, area, and she has like a similar accent, you don't think much of it. It's like it's not something from another planet. It's just how people speak. So going back to my example here, where people are proud of representing a brand that is other than themselves, I want to come back and put the focus on you, because you, the listener, or if you're seeing this video recording, if you're watching this, you can try to picture being proud of you as like Adam Parr, your designer brand, Marysol Uribe, my designer brand, Enfermera Marysol. What am I putting out there to represent? what are you doing as a daily habit that later in turn can turn into like more of a muscle tone, right? A bulky body, right? If you represent that, that to people could translate into health, right? Oh, this guy's healthy because he looks good, right? Oftentimes, if you look good, if you look fit, you are fit, like on the inside. If a couple months ago, I took a this is could be TMI for people, but remember, I'm a nurse, so I could talk about this night and day. So I'm going to get into something called, testing, and how you can actually test, right, your blood when you go to get some labs. You can even test your stool to get a picture of what your insides, what your gut is looking like. So scientists can take this information and then say, wow, Adam, internally, you're actually 20 years old. Whereas externally, you can look like, what if your actual age is like 25? Internally, if you're 20, you're killing it, right? So let's do stuff that we can be proud of, and that if others see us, it's like, wow, you've got a trophy body, or, congrats to you. And so that's all just coming to mind on a topic of health and development and fitness. It all goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah, I think it all goes hand in hand. And like you said, it's that, it's almost like I've heard of the compound effect. If you do, 1% every day or every week or whatever, that, compounds and builds over time. So like if you're working out, like you said, every day, and you do 5 push-ups or you do weights or you go for a run, whatever, that's going to slowly build over time and you're going to develop. And like you said, that's that accountability that comes hand in hand with that and leveling up. And I think if you ultimately realize, I think, you shift in your emotional state. So if you exercise, you do something that makes you feel good, you kind of want more of that. And and over time, that uncomfortableness isn't as uncomfortable as it probably was 6 months ago or last week or a couple of weeks ago. And I think, like you said, it's that, how you are of yourself is reflected, like not only externally, but like you said, internally. And that can be kind of verified through different like medical means, if that's the right terminology. I don't know.
No, you're right. Like I'm getting a brain scan through Amen Clinics this month or early next month. And the point of that is to catch things early. So say Alzheimer's can actually be reflected as something that's developing 30 years prior. So if I take the test now, the doctors can know what good or bad of a shape my brain will be in 30 years. So see, catching things early to me is important, and ways you can do that is by testing your blood, testing your gut, feces actually. And that's not really talked about, but people who are elite performers, I've spoken with a lot of athletes, with a lot of people who just want to do things to prevent. And really, that's what I'm all about.
I think that's like really important that what you said. And I think, like I speak to some clients I have in the past, and I'll ask them, how we call them the GP, like general practitioners, how long ago did you speak to your doctor? And some say like, oh, either last week or I'm recently talking to them, or last year or whatever. And I think some people tend to avoid it, might get intimidated. I think that's probably normal. I think is it like I read statistically men are worse for some men. I don't know, that's just in the UK, or nationwide. Women are better usually going to the doctors or having checks. I think sometimes men can sometimes avoid it and just try and get on with things. But I think, like you said, it's ultimately important to check certain things so you can kind of know where you're at. And I think it's sensible, isn't it? It's like if you don't go to the dentist for like 5 years, you're gonna have something might come up. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. So the recommendation here, it might be the same in the UK, but go at least once a year for an annual physical and checkup, get some
Mm.
labs.
I think, I mean, I've got one coming up, and I think it's every 9 months maybe, or at least have one every year. But if you obviously got something going on, then you need to get it checked. But
Sure. Well,
it
9 months is even better, and it's free for you guys, right?
well, we have the National Health Service, and it is free, right? But there's been like a strain on the NHS. There's a backlog. So where I particularly live in the part of the UK, there's a massive waiting list. So if you have something wrong with your teeth, you've got to phone up the dentist or the helpline to see where the nearest place has a vacancy for you. But I'm with private because I can just go in, pay for it, and get it done straight away and not wait however many months or year or whatever. So it depends what your situation is. So I think it's kind of going more private. There's more and more people going private, a bit like, in America. But like, it all kind of comes down to accountability, doesn't it, really? Because, accountability for your health, your well-being, you know.
Yes. Yeah, I could definitely piggyback on that and branch off on this topic, because there's you who's willing to pay for private and get that medical attention ASAP when you want it, when you need it. And then there's person B who kind of waits until a problem becomes a more obvious problem to the point where it hurts, right? A toothache actually becomes worse and it hurts. And at that point, if you wanted the free service, you may not necessarily go that route anymore anyway, and you're gonna end up paying out of pocket. So over here in the US, you can opt for these elective or optional preventative measures, and they are not free. You definitely have to pay for them out of pocket. Because why? It's prevention, it's not treatment, it's not something that insurance is going to cover, because insurance wants to cover things that are actually wrong with you, like kind of when it's too late. And I think if insurances can cover more preventative measures, that would be a win-win for a lot of people who are used to just going when they have a problem.
Yeah, that's it. And I think some people would rather spend the money on other things than be accountable and spend the money on their healthcare. And some people just can't afford it. I find they can't afford it. They haven't got the money, so then they've got to wait however many months, depending on what it is. That's kind of situation here. But like, I remember you were so saying like accountability coach. Like, everyone should have accountability coach, and how that works.
Yeah. Yeah. So both Adam and I, we have one-on-one clients that we see. And if you resonate with Adam, hopefully after this podcast, definitely send him a DM, inquire about that. And I'm sure likewise he would say,
Same to you.
if you resonate with me, by all means, send me a DM, connect, and we can work on something. But the reason why we're so passionate about this is because we've been there and we understand, and we have spent all this time, energy, money, resources, self-developing to the point where we can pull others up at this point. And it's an ongoing journey. I myself read books, continue to self-develop, reach out to mentors of people who I believe have made it, quote unquote, because the definition is different for everyone. And likewise, I can be mentoring someone and they think that I, for one reason or another, have made it. And it's different for other people, but people have said, I really like how, you work because you want to and not because you need to. And there's different things that you can do to kind of get there, whether it's diversifying your money, whether it's connecting or having other businesses. And you can even be an investor and not necessarily put your sweat equity into things. And it depends on what your goal is. You reach out to that person and try to take steps that mirror what they have achieved so that you could implement into your own lives. So we can definitely talk anything health, anything wealth, and all for the purpose of elevating yourself to then possibly elevate others too. I think we all have leaders within us. How about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a really good point you made. Having, role models and mentors and looking up to people and seeing what they've done to get to what place that they have. And I think it kind of gives you that reassurance and confidence that, things are possible, and to surround yourself with people like that in that area that you want to go into, to learn from them, model what they've done. And like you said, look at materials, books, articles, podcasts, things like that, interviews. There's tons of content out there. And I think listen to people's stories as well and seeing what they've done, and that, it's also okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes, and there's a lot of learning in that. But I think, like, life, we never really kind of stop learning. We're always learning about ourselves. We can learn from other people a hell of a lot. I think it's we have a lot of resources around us for us to access. I think, like you said, we just have to kind of make that choice. And I think a big thing is, goals, and in terms of accountability, it's going to be different for each person. And some people don't know what area they want to go into. They're still figuring it out, and that's okay. You just try things out, and you kind of find your place. And even in years' time, oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do this. And that's okay. I think around what people are doing, there's a lot of kind of pressure, I think, or people think, oh, what are people going to think if I do X, Y, Z, and on all of this. But it all kind of interconnects, I think. And I think, like you said, the accountability and having an accountability coach is massive, and surround yourself with, also positive people. People are going to give you that support.
Yeah. And this is how it works with me. I have about 10 to 15-minute phone calls with my clients 1 to 3 times a week. And we basically go over what's going on in their lives, the gist of what they need help with, and kind of I give them homework assignments like, okay, so to get to that, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And by the next phone call, usually they do X, Y, and Z, and they tell me how it went, or they just do X, and then we talk about why they didn't do Y and Z. And then you keep moving the needle like that. And if you get to the point, there could be a lot of fluff that's distracting. So for me, I like to get to the point and have a plan. And I think that's the Capricorn inside of me, for those interested in astrology. And I want people to see results. So, and then I want people to get to the point where they don't need me anymore. I think that's a strong quality of a coach. If you build people up to the point where they realize that they can do it.
Yeah, and it's being that support placement for them, isn't it? And wanting them to grow and get those goals met, and to be there on that journey with them, isn't it?
Yeah. And I remember, this whole mentoring journey, coaching journey, it started by me being a tutor in college. And, I was tutoring these students in a class where I got an A+ in. And these are students that, and looking back when I was a 2T, I myself had pretty good grades, like nothing lower than a B. But why to get a coach in the first place? So you stay at an A, or so you get to an A in your personal life, in your habits, in your mindset. And so, all kinds of students could get tutoring, coaching, mentorship. If you're an A student, by all means, you're welcome. If you're a B student, welcome. If you're a C student, even more so, I want to help you. I want to help you get to that B, get to that A in life, because this is a great way to start. One-on-one coaching, um, catch us while we're more available, because I know for me with school, I'm still in school. I'm on my way to be a prescriber, nurse practitioner. And I know Adam, he's got his commitments, work, life, social, personal. And to be honest, we can't accept everyone. And we would we would like to accept everyone that comes and asks us for help. But our time, like yours, is limited. We're finite. Uh, Time is a finite resource, and you guys should take action while it's available.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. And like people, like like you said, with energy and time, it's limited, and people get out what they are putting in someone, really, aren't they? And if it's like if you're working with someone, you're only going to work with them if they're putting in, you know, in wanting to change or wanting to grow. And you're showing up there for them. It's that kind of 50-50. You're showing up for them and they've got to show up for themselves. And for that,
Exactly.
that
Yeah,
kind of goes hand in hand.
definitely. And I believe that my top clients and patients get most out of what I have to say when they implement right away. And then
Yeah.
they like what they see, they keep doing it, and they get better. And that's how you should be in your life, both personal and work, professional.
Yeah, definitely. It's that process, isn't it? There's a lot of patience. You have to be patient, and you might not get into some results straight away, but as long as you keep showing up, then some people make changes massively straight away. So everyone's different. It's kind of that showing up and being patient. All kind of comes together. And I remember you mentioned like kind of dating, and you mentioned like in the topic, like kind of shopping until you find it kind of thing. And I think life is like that, and dating is very much like that. I mean, for most people, um, it's definitely been like that for myself. I'm not too sure if you've kind of experienced that, but like, kind of sometimes you have to go through certain things to kind of realize what you want, what you don't want, and kind of learn things about yourself, don't you? Sometimes you have to have crap happen, so to speak, to know, like draw a line in the sand. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. These are my boundaries.
Exactly. Yeah. We talked off camera, and I kind of compared finding the right coach to dating. You have to maybe go through, maybe I'm not a right coach for you, and you'll realize that in the first 1 to 2 sessions, and then switch to Adam, or vice versa, because we're both really good listeners. We can kind of see what's going on, and then we'll both have our way to suggest things, and create a plan for you to implement. And hey, some people are different personality wise, and it could just take some getting used to. But ultimately, you are the captain of your own ship, you are the producer of your own film, which we call life. And you need to find what works for you. Spend time with the people that elevate and honor you and your time. And my biggest tip, if I could give you one today, would be try to take inventory of the people that you feel drain you after you're with them, and then notice the people that elevate you after you spend time with them. Do you leave like with a smile, hoping to see that person again? Or do you leave with, oh, I'm so relieved this meeting is over? So ask yourself those questions too.
Yeah, I mean that's a big thing, isn't it? Like energy, what energy how people make you feel, or what certain things that you look at make you feel like, and tuning into that energy, isn't it? I think, that's definitely important. And I think because, I've been there myself, I've done things that I've not enjoyed, I've been around certain people, do you know what I mean? Like you mentioned, and you have to take it, it kind of comes down to accountability. You have to be accountable for your situation, and you can change that situation if you don't like it. Yeah. And you don't have to stay in it. I mean, I'm sure we've both done jobs, that we didn't enjoy, but sometimes there is a lot of growth in that place. If sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and you learn things from it, but you don't have to stay in that. If you can take something from it, like a silver lining, but if you're in a relationship, not happy, and you can change it, and it all ties into health, doesn't it? Like, I'm sure in your work or in your field, you see people who aren't happy. They're probably in stressful circumstances, which is affecting their health, and you probably see that physically or like medically. But they
You're
all
totally
people,
right. You're
yeah,
right, Adam, because sometimes it does take a bad situation for you to snap out of things and want to change your lifestyle. But other times, like in that same token, like you just mentioned, you know, but you have to be aware of it first before you can change your situation. It's not too easy sometimes to just snap out of it and cancel a relationship or stop spending time with a family member too much or spend some alone time to finally be in your own thoughts and say, okay, I like these values and virtues, not so much how they've been portrayed in my life. I honestly, maybe this is you thinking, and saying this to yourself. I haven't had the best examples for these types of qualities or these types of traits that I want to see in a man or in a woman or in my next partner. And so it's kind of like, you need to become aware of it first. And you can do that through a coach like Adam and myself. You could do that through journaling, writing it down, and reading books, and ultimately being accountable to yourself and say, okay, I don't like this. I know I want to change it. I want this. And then saying, okay, what do I need to take as my action measures to get from A to B? And then, check in with one of us and we'll keep you accountable and say, okay, so how are you doing with that? Are you moving the needle? What challenges did you face this week? What struggles did you have? And, that's where we could try to get you out of it.
yeah, that definitely. And I think that we definitely need that probably some point in our lives, and that's okay. And I think, like you said, it keeps that awareness, doesn't it? It's like a magnifying glass on yourself. You need that other third party, don't you? Sometimes to ask those particular, maybe uncomfortable questions that kind of put you on track to where you need to be. To ask you, yeah,
Sometimes taking a health assessment is uncomfortable for my patients or my clients. We could get into physical trauma, physical ailments, emotional trauma, emotional ailments. I always talk about or ask them, so, tell me about your medical history. And we cannot disregard psychological mental history,
mm,
addictions, abuse, substance abuse, physical, sexual, emotional. And because those can also become psychosomatic and develop, all these stressors in conjunction can develop something that, whether it's a disease or maybe bring out a genetic mutation that can then
mm,
get you sick. And just look up what cancer is. It's a genetic mutation and it can be caused by all sorts of things, and another tip would be, take a look at your diet. Like, what are you eating? Are you eating foods that come from the earth, or are you eating foods that come from a bag and engineered with all these GMOs and alternate things, that ingredients that we cannot even pronounce.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, isn't it, when when you look into that side of things. And like you said, all of that can be prevented, can't it? Like, and even if some people have those health scares, they can change, they can change the things around if they act within a certain amount of time, don't they? But sometimes, like I said, sometimes people aren't aware of what's going on in their life, their diet, whatever, because they're so ingrained in those habits, almost like a record player, like a record vinyl, with the grooves in it. People have those grooves in their routine, and some of those grooves might be unhealthy. But it's that balance, isn't it, really? And just being aware of what you're having. Don't leave it, kind of like you said, too late.
Right. And for those of you who do want a more specific metric of how your body is doing, a good place to start is to simply take your vital signs. That's blood pressure, temperature, respirations, oxygen level. Here in the US, you can buy the oxygen meter, this scanner that you just place and clip on your finger, and
My mom's got one.
it gives you results in like 30 seconds. You could buy it at a pharmacy, drugstore, over the counter. Don't need a doctor's prescription. It's a medical equipment that's accessible to everyone. So you put that on and you'll see two results. One is your heart rate and one is your oxygen level in a percentage. The closest to 100%, the better. Average is like 95%. It tends to drop when you're asleep, and that's normal. But what is your oxygen level? Do you even know your resting heart rate? Oftentimes, textbook says it's between 60 to 100. That's a range. Athletes, I've seen it be 50, 55, less than 60, but that's normal to them. Because why? Their musculature has become so firm to the point where one heartbeat is carries lots of quality in that heartbeat. It's the blood dumps straight to the ventricle, beats, and that's a quality beat. It's not like a half-assed beat. So that's why I'm telling you guys to work out. Okay, and then the second part of that, the heart rate, is the blood pressure. So just as your heart beats, the pressure that's measured is from the arteries that are over here in your arm, upper arm, or in your wrist area. And those arteries, they squeeze with every heart contraction. And they move the blood from point A to point B, from the bloodstream, to your organs and your tissues, your skin, and perfuse or send oxygen to everywhere in your body. And I always say, oxygen is the money of the body. You want a rich body, you gotta make sure it's well oxygenated, AKA perfused, that your organs are perfused. So check your blood pressure over here. According to the American Heart Association, high blood pressure is now considered 120/80. And that used to be like an average. Everyone in the US had that. If they're an average person, and that was textbook, that 120/80 was average. But now it's considered high. What do you know the numbers in your side of the world?
I was clued up to it when I was at secondary school. Like, we had to, physical education, PE. We had to do tests, and I don't know off the top of my head what it's at now. It might be something similar, to be honest. I know you have to do the BMI. You take it as your, I can't remember. It's been that long ago. Like, divide your age and your height and that kind of thing, and you take something away to find out your BMI. But I don't know.
Metric that shows you the percentage of body fat that you have in terms of your weight, height, gender.
That's it, yeah. I think that's separate, isn't it? But I don't know off the top of my head. It might be similar, or might be a little bit less. But I know that, like I think drinking water must help your health. Your overall health and your body. I try and drink a lot of water, and I recognize if I'm not drinking enough or how I feel. But also, like you said, about heart rate, some people can have, I don't know if you've seen this or heard about this, but like some people that got really high, they could have a really high um, blood pressure count as if they've just run a marathon, but they could be sat stationary and be stressed. And if you think like, social media, the internet or whatever, that's probably all plays into account people's blood pressure. But like you said, we have to be mindful of these things and check these things. So
You
we
should
know that,
monitor,
yeah.
definitely. Yeah, if you guys can afford it, you should all, as soon as you can afford it, get yourself a blood pressure test. Everyone should have a thermometer by now, especially with everything that's going on.
Yeah.
That's been the number one way to check. Well, I hear it on the commercials. The number one way to check for COVID, right? They say it's temperature. Get your temporal scanner today.
Yeah. I
But
think,
that's just one metric, right? Temperature. What about the heart rate, the blood pressure? Blood pressure is actually one of the diseases that's known as a silent killer. You can be seated, as you mentioned, and you can have it high, but you won't know it unless you take the reading. It's a silent killer in terms of it doesn't necessarily bring out the symptom of a headache or necessarily give you like blurry vision or start changing your focus. None of that. It creeps up on you, and you end up seeing it in other disease processes as well.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting how the body works, isn't it? And I listen to podcasts, and they're doing lots of research on the immune system and how the immune system works, and they're finding lots of new data on that because the body and the immune system are very complex. And I think COVID's definitely highlighted that, I think, in terms of people who've had it and how people have reacted. I had COVID early January. I had it 5 days. I think it was probably the Omicron variant, maybe. It's like a hot flu, like cold sweats, things like that. Blocked nose, coughing. But then I was okay. But people,
and that's good because
different.
if you just keep working on your health, you can prevent a lot of illnesses. And the basics are hand hygiene, working out, eating your greens, your veggies, your fruits, and just being on top of your numbers and trying to catch things early.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely highlighted a lot, isn't it? I think in people's health, people are a lot, I like to think a lot more mindful since COVID, thinking a lot more about their health and what benefits them. And it's just, those habits, isn't it? Forming those positive habits and having that good routine and knowing what's right, what's wrong. And, it's that balance, isn't it? Like I have some days the weekend, I'll have probably some chocolate or something like that, but I don't do it every single day, or I don't do it in that excess every single day.
Yeah, cheat meals in moderation. We call them cheat meals if you're on a nutrition diet, specifically like paleo or keto, or just watching your carbs or your calories. Either one of those ways is a good place to start if you're looking to change your diet, your nutritional habits, and maybe start with taking a 24-hour inventory of the foods you've eaten or the drinks you've consumed, and then see if you can replace a food with a different food group or
definitely
one meal for another. But again, it all starts with logging it and being aware of it in the first place.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think that kind of ties back into accountability, doesn't it, really? You think of accountability, relationships, energy, your time, your diet. I think sleep, is a big one. I mean, there's all these areas where you have to be accountable. I recognized I was a bit tired yesterday, so I tried going to bed an hour earlier, to be accountable for that. So it's that self-awareness, isn't it? It's that self-awareness, discipline, accountability all kind of ties in. I know we kind of scheduled our bit of time, from the UK for time.
Yeah, I should go soon.
But where can people find you on Instagram, social media, that kind of thing?
At enfermera Marysol. That's nurse in Spanish. Enfermera Marysol.
That's awesome. But it's it's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm really grateful, that we've connected again after, I think it's supposed to be, was it a year and a half? It feels.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I love connecting with you too. I love the mission, what you're trying to do to impact many, and hey, I'm on the same page, so I'm rooting for you.
Yeah, no, same to you, and it's always great, and I look forward to next time.
Sounds good. Bye.
Yeah, awesome. Take care.